ocean is the Titanic wreckage. The Titanic sank in the early morning hours of April 15, 1912 in the North Atlantic Ocean 4 days into her maiden voyage. It had an estimated 2,224 people on board when she struck an iceberg, and the sinking resulted in the deaths of more than 1,500 people, making it one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. Now, after it sunk, they wanted to find the wreckage, but that would prove difficult as it is tough to reach and find a wreck that lies over 12,000 feet below the surface, where the water pressure is over 6,000 pounds per square inch, about 400 standard atmospheres. Now, a number of expeditions were mounted to find the Titanic, but it was not until September 1st, 1985 that a Franco-American expedition led by Jean-Louis Michel and Robert Ballard succeeded in finding the wreck. Then for some reason people were so obsessed with it as multiple submersibles went down there to see the wreckage. This led to a 21-foot submarine named the Titan to go down there and do tours of the wreckage for the ultra-rich. But then one time something went wrong. It was carrying the CEO of the company and 4 passengers when it lost contact off the coast of Cape Cod. There was a search for the sub, and it was hoped that they could find them and they could be found alive, but unfortunately nothing turned up, and it appears that the sub imploded and everyone on board died. Now I think we should just leave all the boat wreckage alone and leave it in its new home at the bottom of the ocean. Number 9. Hagfish. With a name like that, I think you can expect this thing to be quite ugly, and it actually makes me incredibly uncomfortable. Like, do you see that photo? I am extremely grossed out. Ugh. Now, hagfish are an eel-shaped, slime-producing marine fish, and they are the only known living animals that have a skull but no vertebral column, although hagfish do have a rudimentary vertebrae. Hagfish are jawless, and living hagfish remain similar to hagfish from around 300 million years ago. There are estimated to be 76 species of hagfish, and some live as deep as 5,500 feet below the water's surface. Now, they are known as slime eels because of the goop their bodies produce to ward off predators. These animals can grow between 15 and 40 inches long, and some live as deep as 5,600 feet from below the water's surface. And you know, as long as they stay away from me, that is all that matters. Number 8. The Yonaguni Monument. Are they man-made steps and ancient pyramids that sank in an earthquake, or natural rock formations? These strange structures in the water off the coast of Japan, nicknamed Japan's Atlantis, have baffled scientists since they were found. The sea off Yonaguni is a popular diving location during the winter months because of its large population of hammerhead sharks. In 1986, while looking for a good place to observe the sharks, the director of Yonaguni Cho Tourism Association noticed some singular seabed formations resembling architectural structures. Amazingly, scientists are still arguing whether Mother Nature created the Yonaguni Monument, as well as whether markings in stone are carvings of faces and animals, or simply naturally made scratches. Today, it's a popular dive spot with tourists and continues to puzzle people as one of the ancient mysteries researchers still can't explain. Number 7. River at the bottom of the Black Sea. The Black Sea covers 168,500,000 square miles and has a maximum depth of 7,257 feet. It is one of the most isolated from the world's oceans, and there's a river flowing along the bottom of it. Now, it's not just a normal river, oh no, it's complete with trees, leaves, and even waterfalls. One major difference is that the underwater river, when rounding a bend, moves in current spinning in the opposite direction from those on land. Now, it has been an intriguing aspect of the ocean since it was found. According to scientists, if the river was on land, it would be the 6th largest river in the world in terms of the volume of water flowing through it. The discovery of the river, announced on August 1st, 2010, was made by scientists at the University of Leeds, and it is the first of its kind in the world. Now, how an underwater river works, I have no idea, but I think we should leave it alone and not mess with it as we humans tend to do. Number 6. The Baltic Sea Anomaly. In 2011, a sonar image was taken by Peter Linderberg, Dennis Oberg, and their Swedish Ocean X diving team while searching for treasure on the ocean floor in the Baltic Sea. What the picture showed was a seemingly non-natural 200-foot circular object with passageways and stairs. The discovery looked like something out of a Star Wars film, and many people believed it was a spaceship that sank to the bottom of the ocean. Samples taken from the area in 2012 were given to Swedish scientists who said that there was nothing extraterrestrial about the area, but I'm not too sure about that. What Ocean X and the crew had found was weird, and many people still think there is a UFO lying on the bottom of the Baltic Sea, and thankfully there's another expedition to the area planned soon.
The USS Thresher. This was a US Navy attack submarine that sank on April 10th, 1963. The sub was cutting edge for the time, the latest in submarine technology, but during a deep sea dive test off the coast of Massachusetts, something went very wrong. Several garbled messages were received on the surface, and then nothing. So a search and rescue mission was launched, but nothing turned up. The sub wasn't discovered until 1964, torn to pieces on the sea floor. What's believed to have happened was that a pipe or a weld in the engine room failed, causing water to flood in. And when this happened, the submarine's reactor shut down, leaving it without power to move. The crew tried to use the ballast tanks to float back up, but the air system was toast. Moisture in the system turned into ice and blocked the valves, so the submarine couldn't rise, and with no way to stop it, the Thresher just kept sinking. The deeper it went, the more pressure it faced until the hull finally would have given in. It was crushed by the intense pressure, and all 129 people on board were killed instantly. La Manve. For decades, this was probably the most mysterious submarine disaster in history. Everyone knew something bad had happened, obviously, but no one knew where the sub actually was. La Manve was a French submarine that mysteriously vanished in 1968. In fact, it's one of 4 subs that went missing that year. The sub had been on a routine training mission in the Mediterranean Sea when it suddenly disappeared without a trace. A search and rescue was launched, with ships and aircraft scouring the sea for any sign of the missing sub, but they found nothing. For decades, the fate of the submarine was a complete mystery. Families of the crew members were left in limbo, never knowing what happened to their loved ones. It wasn't until 2019, more than 50 years after it disappeared, that the sub was finally found by a company called Ocean Infinity. It was lying on the seabed about 45 kilometers off the coast of France. So what exactly caused the submarine to sink? It looked like there had been a catastrophic implosion, but the exact cause is still a mystery, and we'll likely never know. Another one of the mysterious submarine disappearances in 1968 was the USS Scorpion. The Scorpion was a US Navy submarine. It was on a routine patrol in the Atlantic Ocean when it suddenly disappeared. There was no distress call, no warning whatsoever. All that was known was that the captain had said they were closing in on a Soviet sub. It wasn't until several months later that wreckage from the Scorpion was found on the ocean floor, but the discovery raised more questions than answers. What caused the Scorpion to sink? Why did it happen so suddenly without any warning signs? Some think there could have been mechanical failure, but this was the Cold War, so most people think it had something to do with that. Next up, we have the HMS Thetus. On June 1st, 1939, the submarine was on a trial run in Liverpool Bay. Part of the trial was, of course, a test dive. Now, a lot went wrong here. First of all, the sub was packed. There were 103 men on board, double the amount that the vessel had been designed for. Most were sailors, but there were also engineers from the company that built the sub. The Thetis tried to dive, but it wasn't able to. It was too light. Lieutenant Frederick Woods, not knowing that the torpedo tubes were already full of water, let more in to try and make the vessel heavier, but there was a problem. A painter had accidentally blocked a crucial valve with enamel, making it seem safe to open the inner torpedo door. This caused a rush of water into the sub, sending it nose first to the seabed. It took hours for the SOS alarm to reach the Navy, and when they finally did arrive, things just got worse. They tried to lift the vessel, but the wire snapped and the sub sank once again. In the end, there were only 4 survivors. 99 men were still trapped inside. It wasn't until 4 months later that the submarine was raised and the bodies were recovered. Next up, we have the Ming 361 disaster. The Ming 361 submarine was on a mission. part of China's strategy to secure its maritime borders against the US Pacific Fleet. It was stationed in the Yellow Sea off China's northeast coast. It was primed for exercises, but things didn't go as planned. During a routine maneuver in April of 2003, disaster struck as the submarine's diesel engine malfunctioned, a glitch which quickly turned deadly. The engine's failure led to a carbon monoxide nightmare, sucking the oxygen out of the cramped vessel. The vessel did surface, but was basically a tomb. It drifted for 10 days before Chinese fishermen came across the vessel on April 25th. The entire crew was found slumped over their stations.
The INS Darar, a World War II-era British submarine purchased by Israel in 1965, vanished in the Mediterranean Sea in 1968, with all 69 crew members on board. The submarine was en route to its new home base in Israel and had been making excellent time, even requesting to arrive early. Then, after a few routine transmissions, it simply disappeared. An international search effort was launched, but no trace of the submarine was found. Israel insisted there was no foul play, but the disappearance of the Darar became one of 4 mysterious submarine disappearances in 1968. Years later, a fisherman found the submarine's emergency buoy washed up on shore, but the experts who examined it made some errors that misled searchers for decades. Meanwhile, there were unconfirmed reports that an Egyptian warship had sunk the Darar. Finally, in 1999, a joint US-Israeli search team discovered the wreckage of the Darar on the seabed almost 10,000 feet down. The submarine appeared to have rapidly plunged past its maximum depth, causing a catastrophic hull rupture. The exact cause of the sinking remains unknown, but it's clear that whatever happened was sudden and devastating, leaving the crew no time to take emergency measures. The discovery of the wreck brought some closure, but the mystery of what happened to the Darar in those final moments continues to haunt us. The French submarine Manve vanished in 1968, taking with her 52 souls. She was last heard from while cruising just beneath the waves in the Gulf of Lion, promising a nearby aircraft a swift return to port. This was the final transmission from the doomed sub, and she disappeared without a trace in waters thousands of feet deep. Despite an extensive search, the French Navy couldn't locate the missing sub. For over 50 years, the families of the lost sailors were left in the dark, unsure of what had happened to their loved ones. The official file on the incident was classified, adding another layer of mystery to the tragedy. It wasn't until 2019 that a glimmer of hope emerged. A new search using advanced technology was launched, and this time, they were successful. The Manve was found broken into 3 pieces resting on the seabed. Though the sub was in ruins, the letters MINE and S were still visible on the hull, a chilling reminder of the vessel and the men who sailed on her. This discovery, while very bittersweet, provided some closure for the families who had waited so long for answers. The site of the wreck was declared a maritime sanctuary and a final resting place for the Manve and her crew. The USS Scorpion was a nuclear submarine, and it vanished mysteriously in 1968, becoming one of only 2 nuclear subs the US Navy has ever lost. The official investigation was inconclusive, leaving the incident shrouded in mystery. The wreckage, found deep in the Atlantic, showed the sub had imploded, likely from going too deep. But what caused this descent remains a chilling question. One unsettling theory is that a battery malfunction in one of the torpedoes sparked a fire, triggering a deadly explosion within the submarine. Another disturbing possibility is that a malfunctioning torpedo activated accidentally and turned on the sub itself, striking in a horrifying twist of fate. Yet another theory suggests the sub's trash disposal unit malfunctioned, causing flooding and a cascade of failures leading to the implosion. Adding only another layer to the story, some believe the Scorpion was sunk by a Soviet submarine, possibly in retaliation for another incident. This theory claims a spy ring within the US Navy could have leaked the Scorpion's location to the Soviets, but the Navy maintains no Soviet sub at the time had the capability to track and attack a US sub like the Scorpion. Despite decades of investigation, the truth behind the USS Scorpion's demise remains elusive. The unanswered questions and numerous theories contribute to the eerie tales of this lost submarine, making it a haunting chapter in naval history. The USS Thresher, a cutting-edge nuclear submarine designed to hunt Soviet subs, met a chilling end on April 10, 1963. During deep-sea diving tests off the coast of Massachusetts, something went terribly wrong. Garbled messages from the submarine hinted at, quote, minor difficulties before communication was lost entirely. The Navy scrambled to search for the missing vessel, eventually discovering the shattered remains 8,400 feet below the surface. A court of inquiry concluded that a likely cause was a faulty pipe joint leading to a cascade of problems. Imagine icy cold water spraying onto electrical panels, shutting down the reactor, and leaving the submarine powerless. The crew tried to blow the ballast tanks to surface, but it seems that moisture in the air system froze and blocked the emergency release. Trapped at crushing depths, the Thresher imploded, taking all 129 crew members and shipyard personnel with it. This tragedy spurred the Navy to launch the SubSafe program, which is a rigorous submarine safety initiative. Starting off our list in the number 10 spot, we have the OceanGate's Titan. Of course, we had to start with this one today because this story is currently unfolding as we speak. A significant search and rescue mission is currently in progress in the Atlantic Ocean, where a tourist submarine touring the Titanic wreckage has been missing for over 48 hours. On board the submarine, known as the OceanGate's Titan submersible, are 5 individuals, including British billionaire adventurer Hamish Harding, esteemed French diver Paul Henry Nargolet, and Pakistani entrepreneur Shahzad Dawood and his son Suleiman Dawood. The 5th person is believed to be Stockton Rush, the founder of OceanGate Expeditions. The Titan submersible was equipped with a 4-day emergency supply of oxygen before its departure. Rear Admiral John Mauger of the U.S. Coast Guard indicated on Monday that they anticipate between 70 to 96 hours of oxygen supply remaining. The submarine dove on Sunday morning, but communication with the Polar Prince, its Canadian research icebreaker support vessel, was lost approximately an hour and 45 minutes later. OceanGate Expeditions, a firm providing 8-day trips to visit the Titanic wreckage at a very hefty price of $250,000 per individual, is currently mobilizing all possible options to safely retrieve the crew. Both the US and Canadian Coast Guards are participating in the ongoing rescue efforts, and it truly is an absolutely horrifying scenario.
Number 9. USS Scorpion. The ill-fated USS Scorpion was an American nuclear submarine that mysteriously disappeared in the Atlantic Ocean back in 1968. It was carrying a crew of 99, and the disappearance of the submarine sent shockwaves through the naval community. The USS Scorpion was expected to return in a port in Norfolk, Virginia, but as days turned into weeks, it was quite clear that something bad had happened. Now, despite deploying massive search operations, not a single trace of the submarine was found, as if it was swallowed whole by the ocean. There's nothing left. That's why the ocean is so terrifying. Again, my palms are wet as I'm doing this list. It wasn't until several months later that the wreckage was finally found. The remnants of the once formidable USS Scorpion were found resting at an incredible depth of 10,000 feet below the ocean's surface. The discovery raised more questions than it did answer. What led to the tragic end of such an advanced submarine? How did this happen? Speculations abound, with theories pointing to possibilities from equipment malfunction to a self-inflicted torpedo explosion. But the real answer remains elusive, hidden deep within the unforgiving grasp of the sea. Terrifying.
In our number 8 spot today, we have the HMS Thetis. Thetis embarked on her maiden dive in 1939, an event that was meant to signify the start of a long and successful tenure at sea. Tragically, however, the first voyage quickly descended into disaster. Due to a very catastrophic malfunction of a torpedo tube, the Thetis sank into the depths. As the vessel succumbed to the ocean's relentless pressure, the majority of the crew found themselves trapped within the submarine's metal confines.
submarines. Despite their best efforts, most of the crew tragically succumbed to suffocation in the cold, unyielding grip of the sea. In the face of this dire situation, a handful of crew members managed to escape using early versions of rebreathing devices. These devices, while primitive, saved the lives of the lucky few who were able to use them effectively. Subsequent salvage operations managed to retrieve the Thetis from her watery grave. However, the memory of her maiden voyage remains etched in the annals of the Royal Navy as one of its worst peacetime disasters. The loss of the Thetis was not just the sinking of a submarine, it was a shocking revelation of the state of naval preparedness at the time. It was a harsh lesson learned and a wake-up call to the Royal Navy.
Number 7. Minerve. In 1968, the French submarine Minerve disappeared into the depths of the Mediterranean Sea. Along with the submarine, there was 52 crew members that happened to also vanish, leaving behind a country in shock and a mystery that seemed impossible to solve. Despite immediate and intense search efforts involving a formidable assembly of ships, they couldn't find anything despite all efforts. No trace of the vessel was found, no debris washed ashore, no distress signals were picked up. Nothing. The Minerve had disappeared, literally this time without a trace, leaving behind a void filled with sorrow, unanswered questions, and a nation in mourning. Now, over the following years, the memory of the Minerve remained alive, but a profound silence surrounded the lost submarine. A silence that lasted over half a century. But in 2019, more than 50 years after the Minerve vanished, a glimmer of closure finally arrived. 50 years too late, but better late than never. The wreckage of the lost submarine was discovered, finally. It brought a sense of tangible reality to a story that had for so long been this haunting enigma. Now, despite this discovery, the cause of the disaster still remains cloaked in mystery, leaving the tale of the Minerve as one of the most enigmatic and haunting narratives of the deep. I'm never swimming again.
In our number 6 spot today, we have the USS Grayback. The USS Grayback was an American submarine that prowled the expanses of the Pacific Ocean, striking fear into the hearts of enemy vessels. With a successful combat record, the Grayback was considered an essential asset until it mysteriously went missing in 1944. Shockwaves rippled through the ranks when the Grayback failed to return from patrol. An air of disbelief surrounded its sudden and unexplained disappearance. The official explanation pointed towards an operational error in deciphering the submarine's last known position. This misinterpretation tragically led the search efforts astray, and the Grayback was declared lost at sea. For many decades, the submarine's fate remained shrouded in mystery, its whereabouts unknown. Then, in a chilling revelation, the Grayback's watery grave was finally discovered in 2019. The submarine was found resting in the ocean's depths, its once formidable structure now a very silent and eerie testament to a bygone era. The discovery of the USS Grayback not only confirmed its final resting place, but also served as a solemn reminder of the perils of warfare and the brave souls who navigate them.
The vastness and depth of Earth's oceans still haven't been fully explored. There's this whole world down there. It's completely foreign to us. And yeah, as fascinating as that is, the unknown is also what unsettles us the most. Today, we're diving into the world of creepy underwater audio recordings. So join me, your friendly neighborhood host James, as I share with you top 10 disturbing signals heard by submarines. And we're going to kick off this list with the 52 Herz Whale, aka 52 Blue. This sound belongs to an unidentified whale, and what makes the sound so mysterious is that it belongs to a whale that has never been sighted. The frequency of the sound is higher than any known species of whale that follow its migration patterns. It's been recorded with hydrophones a number of times since the late 80s, and for a long time it was thought to be the only whale emitting this frequency, which is why it's often been referred to as the world's loneliest whale. But in 2010, a second whale call was detected emitting a similar frequency at the same time as our lonely 52 Blue. So, is this a rare species of whale that has never been seen before, or is it just one or two whales who happen to have a unique, higher pitched call? We're still not certain. Listening to the recording though, there is this haunting kind of aura about it, although I think it's mostly the context that attributes to that. If you been liking our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. button. It really helps us out more than you probably know, and we got videos coming at you at the daily, so don't miss out on anything. Number 9, we have the Biot twang. This next recording was taken in the depths of the deepest and most mysterious place on Earth, the Mariana Trench, and just knowing that makes this one feel kind of freaky. The sound was recorded in 2014 within the Mariana Trench Marine National Monument. Scientists weren't sure what the sound was at first. It sounds almost mechanical, hence why it's referred to as the Western Pacific Biot twang, but it's believed that this could be a new vocalization made by a dwarf Mink whale. Sharon Newkirk, a senior faculty research assistant in marine bioacoustics at Oregon State University, was quoted describing the sound, saying, "It's very distinct, with all these crazy parts. The low frequency moaning part is typical of a baleen whale, but it's the kind of twangy sound that makes it really unique. We don't find many new baleen whale calls." Yeah, it sounds like a creature that'd be in like a science fiction movie. Someone commented in one of the YouTube videos of the recording that it sounds like something from Metroid Prime, which I can totally hear. I just get images of playing my GameCube and just hearing those weird alien sounds in the background. It's really cool, but considering the fact that this thing is from a real animal deep down in the dark depths of the Pacific Ocean, makes it really creepy as well. Very strange sound and a very perfect name too. Hearing that, I'm like, yeah, that does sound like a Biot twang. Biot twang sounds like a genre of futuristic country music, doesn't it? Like, wanna go hang out, man, play some Biot twang? Number 8, the Mink whale Star Wars call. This next sound was recorded in Australian waters and is quite similar to the last one, and then it has, again, this twangy mechanical sound to it, but it is biological, also belonging to a dwarf Mink whale. While the first one sounds like a deep guttural moan, this one sounds even more machine-like, which is why the sound has been nicknamed the Star Wars call. It almost sounds like a science fiction laser blaster. For a long time, the sound was recognized, but no one was sure where it actually came from. This recording was taken by Dr. Jason Gadamke and his team in 2001, where it was confirmed the sound was being made by dwarf Mink whales, and they couldn't believe it at first. It just sounded so bizarre. Before these recordings were taken and confirmed that the sound was actually biological, a number of whale experts had told Gadamke to contact the Australian Navy to confirm whether or not the sound was actually coming from one of their submarines. So yeah, take a listen. Up next we have knock. This recording was taken by biologists at the National Marine Mammal Foundation after a beluga whale named Knock was discovered making odd noises by a diver in the whale and dolphin enclosure. The diver kept hearing what sounded like voices on the surface and could have sworn he heard someone say repeatedly, "out, out." He thought the sounds were coming from one of his colleagues on the surface. So he swam up and started asking who was telling him to get out. Nobody knew what he was talking about before they eventually realized that Knock was the one making the sounds. It's actually kind of cute because it's a beluga whale and they're adorable, and the fact that it's making a sound. Funny how it was trying to imitate our speech, having spent so much time with humans, but at the same time it also sounds like a dying cat or a robot that's malfunctioning. Not a very pleasant sound. Knock needs to do more vocal training if he hopes to actually communicate with us. Well, if he's even alive anymore. I'm not sure how long beluga whales live for. But. Number 6, the Bloop. Now, this is one you've all probably heard of, but I couldn't help but put it on here. It's quite the sound. So the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA for short, was doing their thing monitoring underwater sounds in the Pacific Ocean when they stumbled upon this eerie recording. The bloop was like nothing they had ever heard before. It was this crazy low frequency noise that lasted for a whole minute. People were going nuts trying to figure out what could have made such a sound. Of course, wild theories started flying around. Some folks thought it was some kind of massive sea creature, like a supersized version of Nessie or the infamous Kraken. Others were convinced it had to be aliens, because whenever we don't know what something is, it's always either a ghost or aliens. But as it turns out, the NOAA scientists had a more down-to-earth explanation. They reckoned that the bloop was caused by a huge chunk of ice breaking off from a glacier and falling into the ocean. Basically, moral of the story here is scientists often just ruin all the fun, but still a creepy sound. Next on the list we have the lightning strike. This sound was recorded in 1984 by Henry Bass, Roy Arnold, and Anthony Atchley with a hydrophone in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's the sound of lightning striking the open water. Take a listen to this. That is just nuts. When I first heard it, I was immediately like, wait a minute, I know that sound. It sounds like a science fiction weapon, obviously, but more specifically, right. It's exactly like the photon torpedo from Star Trek. Really, really cool. Also kind of terrifying. Not only that though, but this is a pretty rare sound to catch. Lightning often hits on land. It strikes at the highest point, so the ocean isn't typically its main target. I don't really have much to say about this one. It's just a wild sound. Next up we have the Submarine Volcano. This recording was taken by scientists in 2004 with the use of a hydrophone. It's the sound of N.W. Rota, a submarine volcano, during an eruption. Take a listen to this. The Mariana Volcanic Arc is a bunch of underwater volcanoes found in the western Pacific Ocean north of Guam. There are at least 20 of these volcanoes just chilling beneath the surface. One of these volcanoes, called NW Rota 1, is submerged pretty deep, with its peak about 517 meters down. And this is the sound of ash and lava fragments bursting forth from it. If I didn't know any better, I'd think this was the sound of a plane taking off, or the sounds of a subway train recorded with like an old MP3 player, but knowing this is a volcano erupting from deep under the ocean definitely makes it a lot scarier. Number 3, Julia. For a long time this sound was unidentified, but it's believed that it likely came from an iceberg. It doesn't make it any less haunting of a sound though. Captured by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, this unique and eerie sound recorded in the ocean puzzled scientists for a long time. When the NOAA placed hydrophones deep in the ocean, they unexpectedly picked up a low frequency sound resembling a haunting, almost ghostly kind of moan. So they referred to it as Julia, of course. I have a hunch one of these scientists had a bad breakup with a Julia at some point in their life or something. It's believed to be produced by the interaction of water and icebergs in certain conditions, but it's still not 100% certain. So want to hear what a submarine firing a torpedo sounds like? Come to the right place. This audio clip is of an American submarine firing a torpedo. You can hear the torpedo launch, followed by the outer hatch closing, and then there's this long kind of silence as the torpedo makes its way to its target before you hear this massive sized, crunchy explosion. It's pretty cool. Take a listen. Definitely not as spooky and eerie as many of the sounds on this list, but I just can't help but imagine how terrifying it would be having a freaking torpedo launched at you, so it's scary enough for that reason. And finally, at our number 1 spot, we have the Upsweep. Now, a lot of you have probably heard this one, but my god, is this ever unnerving. Of all the sounds on the list, this is the one that creeps me out the most, and a lot of that is due to the fact that the source of this sound is still unknown. It's on the NOAA's list unidentified sounds. The Upsweep sound was picked up by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, baby, in the Pacific Ocean. It was first heard in 1991 and is made up of a series of high-pitched sounds that get higher and higher, like something going up in pitch. And again, nobody knows for sure where the sound is coming from or what is causing it. Scientists have been trying to figure it out, but they haven't been able to come up with a definitive answer. And some people think it could be caused by movements in the Earth's crust or underwater volcanoes, but many also think it could be the sounds of unknown sea creatures. One day, hopefully, we will find out for sure.
Number 5. K-129. In the annals of maritime history, few tales incite as much intrigue and speculation as the mysterious disappearance of the Russian submarine K-129. In 1968, this formidable vessel vanished without a trace in the Pacific Ocean, taking with it a crew of 98 men and a deadly payload of nuclear ballistic missiles. Not a great thing to lose by any means, not at all. The vanishing of K-129 set off a frantic and exhaustive search by the Soviet Navy. However, despite their best efforts, they were unable to locate any trace of the missing submarine, of course. The loss of K-129 with its crew and deadly arsenal represented a significant and unsettling mystery of the Cold War era. In an incredible twist, the CIA embarked on a covert operation named Project Azorian. Using advanced technology and deep-sea recovery techniques, the CIA was able to locate and partially raise the wreck of K-129 from the depths of the Pacific Ocean. This top-secret operation only added to this enigma surrounding the submarine's fate. Yet, despite these efforts, the reasons behind the sinkings of K-129 remain shrouded in Cold War secrecy and intrigue. Was it onboard equipment malfunction, a failed missile launch, or something more sinister? Who knows? The truth lies hidden with K-129 in the dark and silent depths of the Pacific Ocean. And we're never gonna know.
In our number 4 spot today, we have the INS Dakkar. The story of the Israeli submarine INS Dakkar is a chilling reminder of the unpredictable perils of the deep sea. This submarine, originally named HMS Totem during its service in the Royal Navy, met a tragic end in 1968 while journeying to Israel. The Dakkar, now a ghostly relic in the Mediterranean Sea, was on its maiden voyage to its new home port when it tragically disappeared, taking with it the lives of 69 crew members. The sudden silence from the Dakkar triggered an extensive search operation that spanned decades. Nations joined hands, deploying advanced technology in an attempt to locate the missing submarine, but the Mediterranean Sea, with its vast expanse, kept its secret well hidden. Despite the tireless efforts, it took more than 30 long years before the wreckage of the Dakkar was finally located. The investigation into the disaster pointed towards a catastrophic hull failure as the cause of the sinking. However, the exact reasons for this failure remain buried with the submarine.
Number 3. The HMS Afray. The British submarine HMS Afray vanished in 1951 during a training mission, and not only this, but this event marked the last time a British submarine was lost at sea. HMS Afray was on a routine training exercise in the English Channel with 75 crew members and trainees on board. Now, as part of the exercise, the submarine sent a routine radio message, a mundane act that would become its last known contact with the surface. Now suddenly, and without explanation, the Afray was engulfed by silence. This sudden radio silence sparked a massive search operation, of course, but the submarine remained elusive, its fate unknown. The search for the Afray lasted for several months before the submarine was finally, thankfully, found. Now, the discovery was chilling. The Afray lay silent and lifeless at the bottom of the English Channel. Investigations into the disaster pointed towards a potential failure of the submarine's breathing apparatus as the primary cause. However, despite the best efforts and investigations, the precise reason for the Afray's tragic end remains a mystery, submerged in speculation and uncertainty. What a way to go.
In our number 2 spot today, we have the ARA San Juan. In 2017, the San Juan and her crew of 44 mysteriously vanished off the Argentine coast, inciting a desperate search and a nation's collective anxiety. The San Juan was not just a submarine, it was an embodiment of Argentina's maritime capabilities, an icon of national pride. When it disappeared, it left an eerie silence and a trail of unanswered questions. The world watched in suspense as an extensive multinational search operation unfolded, the sea's vast expanse challenging every effort to locate the missing submarine. A full year passed before the wreckage of the San Juan was finally discovered, resting in the unforgiving depths of the ocean at 3,000 feet. The discovery, however, brought more grief than relief as it confirmed the tragic fate of the 44 souls on board. Investigations into the cause of the disaster pointed towards a sudden onboard explosion, likely triggered by a faulty battery. This catastrophic event would have given the crew little chance of survival, abruptly ending their underwater journey.
And finally, number 1, the KRU Nangala. During a routine training exercise in the Bali Sea, the KRU Nangala, a German-made vessel, set out with 53 brave souls on board. Now suddenly, an unsettling turn of events unfolded. Nangala vanished without a trace, leaving behind a wake of uncertainty and fear. A massive international search and rescue operation was immediately launched as nations rallied together in a race against time to locate the missing submarine and its crew. Naval vessels, aircraft, the best technology they could get their hands on, all of this was deployed in a desperate search for answers. Days turned into nights, loved ones were waiting anxiously for any news, and finally, a chilling discovery shattered all hope that remained. The wreckage of the KRU Nangala was found on the ocean floor, fragmented into 3 parts. Now, it's believed that a blackout occurred on board, leading to a loss of control over the submarine. In the haunting depths of the Bali Sea, the vessel succumbed to the immense pressure, and its hull compromised and shattered. Terrifying, absolute terrifying way to go. Couldn't imagine.
The K278 Comsolet, a unique Soviet submarine nicknamed Mike by NATO, had the impressive ability to dive deeper than any American submarine at the time. This was due to its titanium hull, a super strong material that could withstand the immense pressure of the deep ocean. In 1989, disaster struck during a routine patrol in the Arctic. A fire ignited in the engineering compartment, quickly spreading through the submarine's cables and systems. Despite frantic efforts to contain the blaze, the submarine lost power and was forced to surface. Imagine the chaos. A nuclear-powered submarine on fire, floating helplessly in the frigid Barents Sea. The crew sent out distress signals, and most abandoned ship plunging into the icy waters. For hours, the submarine remained afloat, the fire continuing to rage, but eventually it succumbed to the flames and sank to the ocean floor over a mile deep. The crew faced a desperate fight for survival. Many perished from hypothermia in the freezing water, while others were rescued by a nearby fishing vessel. Tragically, 42 of the 69 crew members lost their lives. The wreck of the sub remains on the seabed, a chilling reminder of the disaster, with its nuclear reactor and 2 nuclear-armed torpedoes still on board. Though efforts have been made to contain any potential radiation leaks, the submarine continues to be monitored closely, a silent specter haunting the depths of the Barents Sea. The ARA San Juan, a submarine in the Argentine Navy, disappeared on November 15, 2017, with 44 crew members on board. This chilling event occurred during a routine patrol in the South Atlantic as the submarine was making its way back to its base in Mar del Plata. What followed was a massive international search effort involving over 30 ships and aircraft from various countries. Adding to the mystery, an underwater sound consistent with an implosion was detected near the submarine's last known location. This suggested a tragic end for the crew, and hopes of a rescue dwindled. The search continued for weeks, but the submarine remained elusive. It wasn't until a year later, on November 16, 2018, that the wreckage was finally discovered by a private company using advanced submersibles. The submarine was found in pieces scattered across the ocean floor at a depth of nearly 3,000 feet. The haunting images of the wreckage confirmed the devastating implosion, ending any remaining hope of survivors. This marked a somber moment for Argentina and the international community as they mourned the loss of the 44 sailors, including Argentine China's first female submarine officer. The ARA Santa Fe, originally the USS Catfish, had a long and storied history, starting in the US Navy during World War II, where she hunted for minefields and patrolled the Yellow Sea. After a major upgrade, she served in the Korean War and conducted training exercises before being transferred to the Argentine Navy in 1971. Renamed the Santa Fe, she found herself in the middle of the 1982 Falklands War. Tasked with transporting Marines and supplies to South Georgia, the Santa Fe faced a harrowing attack. A British helicopter spotted the submarine and dropped depth charges, causing significant internal damage. As the Santa Fe limped back to Grytviken, it was bombarded with torpedoes and machine gun fire, injuring one crewman. The submarine managed to return to shore, but the damage was done. The crew abandoned the listing vessel and the British took control of Grytviken. In the aftermath, a tragic incident occurred. An Argentine crew member, Petty Officer Felix Artuzo, was mistakenly shot and killed while a prisoner of war, becoming the only Argentine submariner to die in a war. The submarine itself, damaged and partially sunk, became an environmental hazard, leaking oil and other contaminants. After several attempts, the British finally disposed of the Santa Fe in 1985, towing it out to sea and sinking it in deep water, ending the submarine's long and eventful life. Picture a German submarine, U-864, is silently gliding through the depths of the North Sea during World War II. It's on a secret mission to deliver a deadly cargo to Japan, 67 tons of liquid mercury, a key ingredient in explosives. The crew is tense, knowing they're carrying a ticking time bomb, not just for their enemies, but for themselves. Unbeknownst to them, a British submarine, HMS Venturer, is hot on their trail. Venturer's crew has cracked the German naval codes and is determined to stop U-864 at all costs. A cat and mouse chase ensues, both submarines submerged, each listening for the other's slightest sound. It's a high-stakes game of hide and seek where one wrong move could mean instant death. After hours of tense pursuit, Venturer takes the gamble. The crew calculates U-864's trajectory and fires a spread of torpedoes. The German sub hears the incoming threat and desperately tries to evade, but it's too late. One torpedo strikes, causing a catastrophic explosion. U-864 is ripped in two, sinking to the bottom of the sea, taking all 73 crew members and their deadly cargo with them. Fast forward to 2003, the wreck of the U-864 is discovered off the coast of Norway, but the danger isn't over. The mercury containers have rusted, leaking poison into the surrounding waters. It is a chilling reminder of the submarine's deadly mission, a ghost ship still haunting the depths, its toxic legacy lingering on. The Soviet submarine K-129 vanished in 1968, leaving behind only a trail of mystery. This wasn't just any submarine, it was a ballistic missile sub carrying nuclear weapons, disappearing without a trace in the vast Pacific Ocean. The Soviets frantically searched, but the Americans, eavesdropping with their underwater listening system, found the wreck first. What makes this story extra creepy is what happened next. The US, in a top-secret mission codenamed Project Azorian, tried to raise the sunken sub from its watery grave almost 3 miles deep. Imagine a giant claw reaching down into the darkness to grab a nuclear-armed submarine, the craziest claw game ever. They managed to lift part of it, but then the claw malfunctioned and a large chunk of the sub fell back to the ocean floor. The whole operation was so secretive that it was disguised as a manganese mining expedition. The US has never fully disclosed what they salvaged, but rumors suggest that they got their hands on nuclear torpedoes and other military secrets. So what really happened to K-129? There are many theories, each more chilling than the last. Was it a battery explosion, a collision with a US submarine, a missile malfunction, or even a mutiny? We may never know for sure, but the mystery of K-129 remains one of the Cold War's most fascinating and unsettling tales. The Soviet submarine K-429 has a strange and unsettling story. This nuclear-powered vessel wasn't just dangerous dangerous because of its reactor, it actually sank twice. The first time was in 1983 during a training exercise. Even though the submarine was undergoing repairs, the Soviet High Command ordered it out to sea anyway. During the dive, a section flooded instantly, tragically killing 14 sailors and sending the submarine to the bottom of the bay. Luckily, it sank in a shallow area, so the surviving crew members were able to escape through torpedo tubes after 2 crewmen swam to the surface to get help. The submarine was repaired, but in a bizarre twist of fate, it sank again in 1985 while docked, this time due to worker error. No one was killed, but the K429 became infamous for its double sinking. This story shows how dangerous submarines can be even without enemy attacks, and highlights the sometimes careless attitude towards human life during the Cold War.
The Kursk was the pride of the Russian Navy until a tragic incident in 2000. On August 12th of that year, during a naval exercise in the Barents Sea, the Kursk, a nuclear-powered Oscar second-class submarine, was out to prove its might, armed to the teeth with torpedoes, but little did anyone know this would be its final journey. At 7:29 a.m., a seismic jolt, 1.5 on the Richter scale, was detected. 2 minutes and 14 seconds later, a massive quake, 250 times stronger, sent shockwaves across northern Europe. Nobody knew it at the time, but the Kursk had met its fate. For 12 hours, the Russian Navy danced around the disaster, pretending all was well. In reality, though, the Kursk was laying on the seabed, its crew fighting this losing battle for survival. Rescue attempts were made, but all had failed, and finally the truth came out. There had been a catastrophic torpedo explosion. There were no survivors. Next up, we have the Russian submarine, the Lurks. Unlike other submarines, the Lurks wasn't a traditional vessel with a long hull. Instead, it was a special kind of submersible designed for deep-sea research and rescue. With its nuclear-powered engines and titanium spheres, it was a marvel of engineering. Apparently, I don't really know what titanium spheres are, but that's just what I read. During one of its missions in the Arctic Ocean in 2019, something went terribly wrong. There was a fire on board, 250 miles north of the Arctic Circle. The crew found themselves in a desperate situation. Submarines are already tight spaces, so as much as they tried to contain the fire, it just quickly spread. Now, fortunately, unlike the Kursk, the submarine was salvaged, and not everyone died here. Some were rescued, but the toll was heavy. 14 crew members died in the fire, including high-ranking officers and captains of other submarines. As for how the fire started, we don't really know. There aren't a lot of details, at least not publicly available. The Russian government didn't provide a whole lot of information about the incident. Next up, we once again have another Russian sub. On April 7th, 1989, the Soviets K-8 embarked on its maiden voyage in the Barents Sea, but it would never return. It's still sitting at the bottom of the sea to this very day. A short circuit in the engine room sparked a fire, forcing the submarine to surface. Unfortunately, some of the crew died in the fire, and many did manage to escape, but at least half of them died in the icy waters. As flames consumed the vessel, it sank to the ocean floor. Expeditions in the mid-90s revealed that the K-8 was a radioactive nightmare, too. Its hull was severely damaged, and its nuclear arsenal was a ticking time bomb, and it seems like things have only gotten worse. Sea samples have been taken in recent years with abnormally high radiation levels close to the wreck, 100,000 times more radioactive than normal. The ARA San Juan was an Argentine Navy diesel-electric submarine that vanished without a trace off the coast of Argentina on November 15th of 2017. It was on a routine patrol in the South Atlantic Ocean and was en route to its home port when something went wrong and it suddenly disappeared. For days, there was no sign of the submarine. Search efforts were launched with ships and aircraft from multiple countries. Hopes continued to dwindle, though, as the search and rescue for the 44 people on board eventually became a search just for the missing wreck. Finally, on November 16th, 2018, a year after the sub had gone missing, the San Juan was discovered in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean. The submarine's hull had imploded. imploded. Debris from the sub was found scattered on the ocean floor off the coast of Patagonia. And finally, we of course have the OceanGate Titan submersible. This was a wild news story last year. For those who somehow didn't hear about this at the time or just need a refresher, I will refresh you. Stockton Rush was the CEO and co-founder of OceanGate, a privately owned deep-sea tourism company. The Titan was a submersible which had been used to tour the wreck of the Titanic before. There was a lot of controversy surrounding this thing though. A lot of deep-sea experts looked at the Titan and were like, that is clearly not up to standard, that is a death trap waiting to happen. Well, the Titan's final dive would be on June 18th of 2023. There were 5 men on board: Paul Henry Narjolet, a French deep-sea explorer and Titanic enthusiast, a British billionaire named Hamish Harding, a Pakistani-British billionaire and businessman, Shahzada Dawood and his son, and finally Stockton Rush himself. The Titan began its descent, and everything seemed pretty routine, but about an hour and 45 minutes into the dive, all contact was lost between the submersible and its support vessel on the surface, and then it didn't surface at all. Days went by as a massive search was launched. There was all this speculation as to what had happened. Was the submersible destroyed? Had they managed to surface but just drifted off somewhere? Time was of the essence, because if they had sunk to the bottom, they'd be quickly running out of air. It was a ticking clock, and finally though, the Titan was found, at least what was left of it. It looked like the small vessel had imploded almost as soon as communication had ceased. The implosion would have taken less than a millisecond.
Number 5. Black smoke stacks. Under the waters off the coast of Galapagos Islands, giant hypothermal vents that spew black smoke were first discovered here in 1976. The hydrothermal vents are usually formed along the mid-ocean ridges in locations where 2 tectonic plates are diverging, as this circumstance creates a great geothermal energy that generates the hydrothermal vents, which are mainly seawater, which is expelled with great pressure and high temperature because of the magma that heated the water. So these black smokers, which can reach sizes of almost 200 feet, are found between 8,200 to 9,800 feet under the sea. When superheated water from below the Earth's crust meets the cold ocean water, the ominous black smoke is formed. The superheated water can reach temperatures as high as 752 degrees Fahrenheit. These vents also host various types of sea life, such as aquatic snails, shrimp, and giant tube worms, which survive off the bacteria that uses the minerals found within the water from the smoke clouds. Number 4. Bloop. The bloop is an unexplained sound that still has us baffled to this day. In 1997, an extremely powerful, ultra-low frequency sound was detected at various listening stations thousands of miles apart and traced to somewhere west of the southern tip of South America. The sound only lasted about a minute and was heard repeatedly over that summer, but has not been heard since. Bloop is generally believed to be the sound of a massive ice quake, but some scientists haven't totally ruled out the possibility that the sound originated from something organic. Now that's where things get scary, as if an animal was the source of bloop, it would have to be larger than a blue whale. The most interesting of all the theories stems from the fact that bloop's location is somewhat close to the author H.P. Lovecraft's fictional city of R'lyeh, where the creature known as Cthulhu lies dead but dreaming. Cthulhu can be best described as part man, dragon, and octopus, which seems as likely a source as any of the ocean's greatest auroral anomaly. Again though, I think we should just let it be, because if it was a huge underwater creature that made that noise, it would be huge, and that is terrifying. Number 3. The Mariana Trench. In the western Pacific Ocean, you will find the deepest part of the sea. The Mariana Trench is deeper than the height of Mount Everest, 43 miles wide, and a massive 1,580 miles long, which is 5 times longer than the Grand Canyon. A certified U.S. national monument, only small areas of the Mariana Trench have been explored. James Cameron reached the bottom in a submersible vessel, Deep Sea Challenger, in 2012, with the last successful attempt to search the ocean floor coming in 2020, when the Chinese submersible Fenduji made it all the way down. Several new species of underwater creatures have been discovered in the Mariana Trench, with most living on the surface of the ocean floor, including a type of sea cucumber. Explorers will find themselves in total darkness as they continue to understand what else lies in the deepest parts of the ocean and how that marine life manages to survive. Number 2. Giant oarfish. An oarfish really looks like a fish-snake hybrid, as it's a huge, greatly elongated fish. The giant oarfish is the longest bony fish alive, growing up to 36 feet in length. It is found in areas spanning from temperate ocean zones to tropical ones. Now, unfortunately, we know little about the oarfish because it lives so deep underwater, as it's rarely seen, but you know what, I think we should keep it that way. However, we do know it neither feeds on humans nor fishes, but on small marine creatures like crustaceans and krill. It was officially discovered in 1772, and in September 1996, the United States Navy SEALs found a giant oarfish that washed up on the shore near San Diego, California, and it was 23 feet long. The giant oarfish is by far the largest member of this fish family at a published total length of 26 feet, with unconfirmed reports of a 36-foot and 56-foot specimen and 600 pounds in weight. Now, even though these aren't confirmed, the 23-foot long one still scares me immensely. And coming in at number 1 is Zimchug Canyon. Zimchug Canyon is an underwater canyon located in the middle of the Bering Sea. It is the deepest submarine canyon in the world and is also tied for the widest. At 8,530 feet deep, Zimchug is not only the deepest ocean canyon, but is also over 2,500 feet deeper than the Grand Canyon. Home to countless deep-water marine life species, the submarine canyon is both the stuff of wonders and nightmares. A handful of researchers have taken submersible crafts into it, but none have yet to be able to reach the bottom. In 2016, Michelle Ridgway explored the canyon piloting an 8-foot submarine in an expedition sponsored by Greenpeace. She reached a shelf depth of 1,757 feet, or 536 meters, that is a third of a mile below the surface. Its sheer size adds numerous complications that have made its exploration a difficult task to this day. It'll most likely take many dives into the dark depths before Zimchug Canyon is fully explored, and who knows who or what is down there, but personally, I wouldn't want to find out. Well, that's all for our list of the top 10 dark submarine discoveries you were never meant to see. Which one on our list shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments down below, and make sure to leave a like and subscribe as well. I'm your host Emily, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Want to see more videos like this one? Check out this video next. It's all about mermaids that were captured on camera. Pretty intriguing, right? So what do you think? Is the footage real or fake? Click the video now to find out more and let us know what you decide. What are you waiting for? Click the video now.